Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the City Council, City of Prescott voting meeting. Today is March 25th, 2025. We'll start off today with introductions and announcements. Mayor Pro Tem, do you have any?
I do, Mayor. Today is Prescott Library is celebrating 50 years on Goodwin Street, and we invite you to get involved in our celebration by sharing your library story. We want to hear how the library has impacted you. You are also invited to share digital scans of your personal historic photos of the library. Your submission will automatically give us permission to share it through any media format. For information, call the Ask a Librarian desk at 928-777-1526 or visit prescottlibrary.info, all one word, and we'll see you at the Prescott Public Library. The second announcement is the City of Prescott is offering a free brush drop-off event for our residential trash customers. The event will run for 5 Saturdays beginning April 5th and ending on May 3rd. Here's what you need to know. Bring proof of City of Prescott residency or your trash bill. Remember not to put the trash in with the brush debris. Commercial haulers will be required to pay the standard rate for disposing of brush and vegetation. For more information, go to www.prescottrecycles.com or give us a call at 928-777-1116. And finally, I'd like to recognize our former mayor, Harry Oberg, for being here today. Great to see you, and thank you for your service. Thanks for being here today. Thank you, Mr. Oberg. Appreciate it.
We'll now have an invocation from Pastor Rich Stoffen from the Pine Rock Camp, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance conducted by Councilmember Rusing, and then we'll proceed with the meeting.
Father God, thank you for your presence in this place. Thank you for your guidance and opportunity to live in such a wonderful, beautiful town. Today is a voting meeting, so we ask, Lord, that you be with our mayor and our council members, give them wisdom and understanding. We pray, Father, that you would continue to provide for this wonderful city, both guidance and your provision in everyday life. Once again, we just want to say thank you. We ask this in your son's name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll now have roll call, please.
Mayor Good.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Cantelmi.
Here.
Councilwoman Fruworth.
Here.
Councilman Gambogi.
I am here.
Councilmember Rusing.
Here.
And the record will reflect that Councilman Montoya and Councilman Moore are excused from the meeting.
We'll next have 2 brief presentations. The first one from the Giving Machine Committee regarding the 2024 event, and then a presentation regarding housing needs assessment. After that, we'll have 2 proclamations, one for Water Awareness Month, and then our National Vietnam Veterans Day recognition, which is technically March 29th, but we're going to be doing that today. So the Giving Machine Committee.
Mayor Good, council members, staff, thank you for the opportunity to come present here today. My name is Brett Mangum, and I am the city lead with my wife, Nicole, for the Giving Machines here in Yavapai County. And we have some exciting presentations to give today. For those that don't know, I know most of the council members know because they've been supporting us all along here, but for those of the public that might be here, Giving Machine is a vending machine style way to give at Christmas time. And we partner with global, statewide, and local charities to put items in the machine that they can give to somebody in need. And once again, Prescott was very generous, and we'd like to recognize the members of the community who have donated and have been so generous. And we'd also like to highlight the 3 local charities that were represented in the machine this year, and we'll introduce them as we give them the checks. We're going to have the mayor represent the people of Prescott and present these checks. We'd like to first invite up Wayne Ballard and Alex Daniels. Wayne is the president of the Chino Valley Education Foundation, and Alex is the vice president. Come on up. We'd also grab the back one. Sorry, I went out of order. We'd also like to recognize President Matt Campbell, if you would come up, please. The sponsoring organization for the giving machines is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and President Campbell represents them. We'll go ahead and have you stand there too. And Chino Valley Education Foundation was donated $18,960 from the people of Prescott. And I'd like to recognize that none of this, 100% of the money that's donated at the machines goes right to the charities. And we've selected charities that have a high rate of giving and very low overhead. So thank you, Chino Valley Education Foundation. If you'd like to go off to the side, we'll get the next one up here. And thank you. That's very nice. Who do you have next? Okay, for the Coalition for Compassion and Justice, we'd like to invite up Allison Lanocker and Jared Romig. So come on up. Let's give them. The Coalition Compassion and Justice received $15,007 from the people of Prescott and Yavapai County. Thank you for your generosity. And lastly, we'll invite Neil Sneller up, who is the Executive Director for Meals on Wheels. And they were presented a check for $14,995 from the people of Prescott, Arizona. So. You want to do a handshake? And we'd like one more picture with all the checks up here. So if you would come back up and we can take one more photograph. And as we do that, we'd like to express our gratitude one more time. Thank you very much.
Okay, next up, Mr. Mayor and Council, is Rick Merritt. He was with Pollock and Company. They're in the process of doing a needs assessment for us here with the City of Prescott.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, Mayor and Council. I want to go through real quickly just some initial results we've collected from our study. We've actually been retained by the city and the town of Prescott Valley to perform this analysis in a kind of a cooperative measure. And we learned from each city things that are going on in the community as well. So let me just start with what affordable housing is. And there's many names for it. I know you have your workforce committee that's been working over the past year and a half or so, doing a great job on that. But there's many names for affordable housing. The primary thing is you don't want to see people spend more than 30% of their income on housing. So that's really the goal of this type of analysis. There's also, we've talked about workforce and missing middle. This is a group of households that make too much money to get assistance from the federal, state housing authorities. And they earn too much, so they are kind of stuck in the middle. Housing's too expensive for them in the normal market, so they're stuck in the middle. They're often including essential personnel, teachers, police, firefighters, construction workers, teachers, as I mentioned, things of that nature. So it's a wide variety of households that can be impacted. I want to talk a little bit about the demographics of Prescott. And the one issue that is the most outstanding is the average age of the household, and that's 60 years old. What that does is it creates a situation where you have a very low labor participation rate. You don't have the labor force here that provides the services to the community, just from the standpoint of haircuts, people working in grocery stores, teachers for that matter. Any number of different occupations that you need to work in hospitals. You don't have those people, so they have to be imported into the community. Fortunately, you have Prescott Valley that imports quite a few of the workers here, but it really creates a situation where a community can start to break down, a community of fabric, the economy can start to break down. And the one example that I always point to is Sedona, where families have moved out, schools have closed. You hear about you don't have enough kids to form up little league games and soccer teams and things like that. And so that's the thing you really have to watch out for. We've heard from Yavapai College, they're having difficulty recruiting professors, finding places for students to live affordably. The Prescott Valley Hospital, we talked to them. They still have 75 traveling nurses on their staffs because they can't recruit nurses. They have difficulty recruiting doctors. So it makes a whole economy difficult to deal with. And so we look at the economy as one of the major issues that is affected by housing. Let's talk real quick about housing. Here's some analysis of what occurred in the pricing of housing over the past few years or so. And you can see since 2020, the average single-family home is up about 37%. Condos are up 54%. Since 2019, the price of a single-family home rose by $250,000. And a condo rose by $160,000. So it's a difficult situation. The same thing has occurred in the rental market. Rents now have risen about 18%, not so much as the housing market overall, but 18% in rents. So you're up about $1,500 in an average rent in Prescott. You also have quite a bit of multifamily housing that's in the pipeline, about 600 units that are currently under permit and under construction. There's another 1,300 units that are somewhere in the planning process. Now, these may not come to fruition in the immediate future because of cost of construction, inflation, the cost of debt, things of that nature. But there's certainly a lot in the pipeline, and the real problem is when they do come to market, there are probably going to be high rents associated with them just because of the cost of construction that we've seen over the past few years. The average or median income for households in Prescott is about $69,000. A household with that income can probably afford about a $1,600 rent. The problem is you have to remember that's the midpoint of the range. So 50% of all your households are below that level, and so they're finding difficulty in finding housing that is affordable to them. We took a look at a $69,000 income. What can they purchase? They can purchase a $240,000 house with a 10% down payment based on current interest rates. Now, interest rates have been up and down a bit. They're a little bit lower than 7% today, but still, it's not going to move the needle very much. It's still going to be very unaffordable if you're looking to purchase a house with just a 10% down payment, assuming someone can come up with that. We also looked at wages in the area. And so we looked, all the way from retail salespersons up to the registered nurses who make a very good wage. But excluding the police and the registered nurses, you can see that secondary school teachers, they can only afford a $1,200 rent. So once again, well below where the averages are today. We took a look, this is from the census data. What percent of your households are paying more than 30% of income on housing? And you're pretty consistent with statewide numbers. It's across the state we're seeing this issue, about 47%. And about 28% spend more than 50% of their income on housing. So once again, a very difficult situation to deal with here. What's your projected housing demand in the future? A population through 2040 is expected to change by about 6,200 people. So the housing unit demand, based on your current number of persons per household, that equates to about 3,200 units. The real question is, what are those units going to look like? Are they still going to be a lot of single-family development? Is it going to be more multifamily development? And that's the thing we really need to further analyze in our studies as we go forward here. This is a really popular exhibit that has been produced by an architectural firm, and it shows the missing middle. And you can see on one end the single-family housing, on the other end are high-rise multifamily. But somewhere in the middle is where you need to start to find housing that's affordable to the typical family. And those can be fourplexes, duplexes, and there's a lot of duplexes in the Tri-City area. Courtyard homes, where there's homes built around the courtyard, which is less expensive to develop. Cottage courts, townhomes are an alternative as well. So it doesn't need to all be apartments that you're seeing. It can be and really you should really focus more on ownership housing, because that's really what you're trying to promote, is people getting, starter homes, getting into starter homes, getting into the market, and then they build up to more single-family product. So what we will be doing in the next steps is finalizing this gap analysis. We'll produce educational material that will be useful in going out to the community. And then we'll be developing strategies as to how you go about and address this issue for Prescott. And it's really Prescott, Prescott Valley, Chino Valley, the whole Tri-City area at this point. And I'd like to point out that on your city's website, Participate Prescott, I believe it's called, is a housing survey. We've had about 220 or so responses to it. We like to see that get up to 400 or 500. We've actually had almost 800 in Prescott Valley. We've had a really good response there. So you could go to the city's website, or you could use this website that's situated here on the exhibit, and we can then get more information on what the community thinks about affordable housing and how to deal with that in the future. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you very much for this. I wanted to point out to the public, too, as a council liaison for the Workforce Housing Committee, we were able to get a grant in order to pay for this study. And it has been really eye-opening. I think probably one of the strongest takeaways for first-time home ownership is getting over the ability to have the down payment.
Yes.
And as we've all acknowledged, it's not going to be just apartment complexes, you're right. It's going to be single-family homes, smaller probably, townhomes, duplexes, and even some manufactured homes. They've really come a long way with the technology surrounding the manufactured home industry, I would say. So, and then of course the zoning, and we've got a lot of different things like that, and the ADUs, the accessory dwelling units that will soon be being built in some of the areas. So it's a multifaceted problem, and slowly but surely we're trying to deal with it. But all these numbers are greatly appreciated. I think it really also drives home the fact that in our community, the competitor for the worker is the retired community. They are very similar in their income and their needs, and that's been probably one of our biggest competitors against the workers in the community. So we have to be kind of aware of that also. But thank you again.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Rick. I'm looking forward to finding out exactly what your recommendations are. I know there's challenges for housing throughout the country, quite frankly.
Yes.
Of course, we're seeing it more and more here in the state, but even look at some of those statistics, it's a challenge throughout the state.
It
So
is.
if we can find somewhere that there's a legitimate solution to this, we'd certainly like to be able to copy it. Councilmember Rusing?
Thank you. I found it interesting that you presented options where people could build wealth and not just be renters the rest of their lives, because it's so important to our American way of life is home ownership. It's very important to our quality of life. So being able to present an opportunity to the workforce to build wealth and have a better quality of life in options like townhomes and condos as starter homes, I really find that very encouraging.
Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to your report.
Thank you for the opportunity today. Thank you.
We'll move on to proclamations now. The first one will be Water Awareness Month, presented by Councilmember Rusing.
I'd like to invite the city staff from our Water Resources Department and all the other departments associated.
Thank you. You got a big group. As you can see, water is very important to our city. As you know, we live in a desert. We've had a drought going on for 30 years now, and unfortunately, I think that's our new normal. So as a result, water is even more critical. And also conservation. It's a very precious, finite resource, and we cannot afford to waste it. So that's why it's very important that we have a Water Awareness Month that will hopefully increase our awareness, and it will become a habit that will continue year-round. Water Awareness Month, April 2025. Whereas this essential and precious resource was recognized by Arizona's governor in 2008 with an executive order that designates April as Water Awareness Month. And whereas the city's water resources continue to experience increasing pressures from prolonged drought, climate variability, and population growth. And whereas information, education, awareness, and engagement are fundamental to ensuring that citizens, businesses, visitors, and elected officials remain mindful and committed stewards of this vitally important shared resource. And whereas simple actions such as fixing leaks, using water-efficient appliances, landscaping with native and drought-tolerant plants, and practicing mindful water use can significantly contribute to conservation efforts. And whereas the City of Prescott will be offering customers the ability to monitor their own water usage and sign up for leak and high use alerts, and whereas the City of Prescott offers residents rebates through the Water Conservation Incentive Program to encourage water conservation inside and out, this month and every month of the year. And whereas the City of Prescott is committed to long-term planning efforts with the goal of delivering high-quality water and managing its water resources to meet the needs of its current and future customers. Now, therefore, Phil Good, Mayor of the City of Prescott, does hereby proclaim the month of April as Water Awareness Month. Does anyone else want to say anything? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilperson. Brian Reese, Water Resources and Environmental Service Manager. As you can see, these individuals behind me here, they just represent whole teams of the city that actually ensure that the water in the taps, the water in the sewer, water quality in our lakes, in our streams, in our storm drains are always up to top quality, meeting all state, federal regulation, and believe me, they go above and beyond to make sure that happens. We have, a lot of members here from the from Public Works Department, but it's really a combined effort of all the departments across the city that makes this happen. You got rec services out there at the Goldwater Lakes, making sure that those dams are safe, inspecting them, making sure that if they have to open those valves, if we have a big snow or a big rain event coming up. You have members of our environmental team who are out there, making sure that the regulations that the state and the federal government put on the city are met, but at the same time going out there and doing testing when events are coming around that bring children out to the preserve areas or to any of the stream areas. They're out there making sure that they're doing testing beforehand so that they can make sure that there's nothing in that water that might endanger those children. So I'm I'm just very happy and very proud of everybody here. And with that, I just wanted to introduce Tracy Beasley. She's one of our latest water resource project managers, and she has taken full force the conservation efforts. So I just wanted her to let you know what we were planning to do for Water Awareness Month coming up.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, everyone. Just a quick first thank you. We're very grateful to be here in the city, supporting your efforts to have a wonderful quality of life while making water smart choices. One of the first things I want to just present to you and constantly offer is we are here for you. My door is always open to anyone who gets water from the city and beyond. So if you have questions about how to reduce leaks, if you want some free items that you can take home and implement, I have them. If you want to have a meeting to talk about our new Ion Water app, I am here and I would love to connect with you. So please keep that in mind first and foremost. Second, you're going to see more of me and more of us in the public, starting with our viewery. The library has a wonderful museum display area that's going to be going up April 1st, and we're highlighting water and technology. So we're super excited, and we hope that you come check that out. It's on the main floor. We will have our Earth Day, which we typically have, and I will be bringing a lot of DIY opportunities this year. So to help people understand how to replace that flap on their toilet or how to install an aerator. So we're going to have some hands-on things this year. And then we'll be at the YCCA, the Homeowners Association event, and keep an eye out. I'm going to be at other events throughout the summer with the PrescottWater.com as the message and the place that you can come to find out more. So thank you. I'm very excited. I've been here 6 months and there's so much opportunity. Please let us know if you have any questions. And thank you, Mayor and Council, for the proclamation on behalf of all of us this year.
Thank you.
Picture.
Photo. Thank you all.
Okay, all you Vietnam veteran buddies of mine, come on up here, will you? Well, this will be the, I believe it'll be the ninth presentation we've made to recognize our Vietnam veterans. When Harry Oberg was mayor, when he was elected in 2015, and I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission, Harry and I got together and said, we need a way to recognize all these Vietnam veterans who were so poorly treated, either when they returned from their deployments in Vietnam or whether they were Vietnam-era veterans who served domestically. So we decided we were going to create our own date. We chose the Tonkin Gulf Resolution date of August 10th, 1964, because in our opinion, that was really where the war really started, even though the Vietnam era is considered from 1955 to 1975. So that was in August of 2016 when we had the first recognition of Vietnam veterans here in our community. Fortunately, President Donald J. Trump, when he became president in 2016, he decided to go ahead and make this a nationally recognized date. So I guess the word got out that Harry and I got this thing started, and he made it a national date. So I do want to mention the fact that over 9 million men and women served during the Vietnam War era. 2.7 million served in country, were actually deployed into Vietnam. And of those 2.7 million, less than 20% are still alive today. So that's about 550,000 out of the 2.7 million. And I do want to emphasize that over 97% of those served honorably. And the estimate is almost 80% would volunteer to serve again if they had the chance. So I think that's very important to know because there were so many myths surrounding Vietnam veterans. And because of those myths, such as they were all draftees, they weren't. Over 80% of the soldiers that served in Vietnam enlisted. So they weren't a bunch of crazy draftees. And I think it's taken many, many years to have those myths debunked and for us to be able to recognize the valuable service that these Vietnam War veterans created for not only Vietnam, but they did stop the domino theory that originally was expected to happen. And if we had held the line in Vietnam, there had been many more countries that would be under communist domination today. So with that said, whereas by an act of Congress, take my notes off here. Whereas by an act of Congress signed into law by President Donald J. Trump on March 28, 2017, the first federal statute to specifically honor Vietnam veterans created National Vietnam War Veterans Day to be observed on March 29th of each year. And whereas on March 29th, 1973, the last American combat troops withdrew from South Vietnam after more than 9 million men and women served in the U.S. military services during the Vietnam War era. And whereas March 29, 2025 marks the 52nd anniversary of the full withdrawal of combat troops from Vietnam, and whereas 58,724 men and women died serving during the Vietnam War, and whereas due to the divisive nature of the Vietnam War, few returning veterans were properly welcomed home and honored for their service and sacrifice to the founding ideals of our nation. And whereas the city of Prescott prides itself in valuing its many military veteran residents, and whereas it is only right and proper that the city of Prescott and its residents recognize and honor all of its Vietnam War veterans for their service and sacrifice. Now, therefore, I, Phil Good, Mayor of the City of Prescott, on behalf of the Prescott City Council, do hereby encourage all citizens to display the flag of the United States to honor Vietnam War veterans, and do hereby acknowledge March 29, 2025 as National Vietnam War Veterans Day. So please welcome these Vietnam veterans home. I'll be presenting this proclamation to the American Legion Post 6 here in Prescott, since I've already given one to the VFW Post 541 in Prescott as well. So thank you all, and thank you all for your service.
I'd like to share how I was welcomed home. My name is Steve Wappershaw, and I got home August 20th of 1969. After spending 364 days, 10 hours, 20 seconds in Vietnam, not to be precise, but we were exiting a bus, going to another bus to go to Long Beach to be discharged. And we walked off the bus, and we were walking down the line, and this lady walked up and smacked me right over the head with a sign that said "Baby Killer." And I instantly went into my Vietnam mode, and I lunged for her throat. And I was going to introduce myself. And this corporal, Marine Corps, literally behind me saved my life, because he reached up and grabbed my collar, pulled me back in line, and said, "Not here, Doc. Not this way. Not now. It's not worth it." And to this day, I thank God every day for that corporal saving my life.
Tighten up and make your buddies smile.
Hoorah! Hoorah!
Thanks again, guys.
All right, and as the mayor makes his way back up, I'll go ahead and move us on to the next agenda item, which is the open call to the public. City of Prescott welcomes public engagement. Residents may comment and address the council regarding items that are not included on the posted agenda during the call to the public. If you wish to speak, please complete a green speaker card and submit it to me prior to the meeting being convened. As a reminder, speakers are limited to 4 minutes, and the call to the public will be limited to 40 minutes in total, with the following stipulations. Citizens will be limited to addressing the council on the same topic only 4 times in total. If a topic has been addressed more than 5 times by different speakers, the mayor may limit future discussion on the topic, and topics of a primarily national concern may be limited at the discretion of the mayor. I do not have any green cards, and it doesn't look like anybody wants to hand me any, so we can go ahead and move on to the consent agenda, Mayor.
Very good. I would like to pull item D for clarification. Do we have any other
Yes, I was going to pull item D also. Thank you.
B or D?
D is in dog.
D is in dog, okay.
We already took care of it. Yep, we're good to go. Thanks.
Okay. All right, so we're going to pull item D for discussion. I'll entertain a motion on the remaining consent agenda items.
Mayor, I move to approve consent agenda items A, B, C, E.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Passes 5-0.
Well, the reason I decided to pull item D is I was concerned about the reference to this contract in an amount to exceed $92,640.30. Shouldn't it be not to exceed? That kind of makes it a little wide open, in my opinion.
Mayor, members of council, Christina, the Airport Services Manager, that is a typo on my part. So my apologies, it's not to exceed.
Thank you, Christine. Councilmember Rusing.
Thank you. At our last airport advisory committee meeting, we touched upon this topic, and I think since our airport is so critical to the area that I think we need to touch upon it again with the rest of the council here and with the public. As you know, out of all of northern Arizona, only Prescott and Flagstaff Pulliam has commercial air service. I don't think people are aware of that. People in Kingman have to drive to several hours to Las Vegas to get on a plane. So we're very lucky to have our essential air service provided to us. And I just asked you to come here today to explain in a little greater detail this amendment to the contract and what it's going to entail.
Absolutely. So this amendment to the current Dibble contract regarding planning and environmental services is specifically for an environmental portion of some land acquisition in the South Ranch area, which helps with our airport protection and runway protection zones, which is part of our obligations with the FAA to be in compliance with our grant assurances. So that's one part of it. The second part of it is a possibility or potential of the shift of the runway 3 right, which is our commercial service runway threshold. And that is going to include a couple of public outreach meetings so we can get some input from the community on their thoughts as that shift will significantly change some of the obstructions that we've had in the Deep Well Ranch, specifically the South Ranch area of the development. And so this is to look at a shift of that and to see if the community is receptive or wanting to continue moving forward with that, along with a public meeting or a study session with City Council to go over those open house meetings and your community responses. And then per the FAA, when doing these kind of land acquisitions and any sort of shift in our runway and our runway extension, we are required to do what's called an airport layout plan update. So this is something else in this scope of work that will be done through Dibble.
And how many feet are we shifting it? I remember it was 750 feet to the northeast.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Charlie. Sorry,
Okay,
Charlie Durham
thank you.
with Dibble is here.
Thank you, Charlie, for coming today.
No problem. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. We don't have a precise distance yet, but it's going to be approximately about 1,000 feet. We're going to try to shift the runway as close as we can get to the intersecting runway so we can totally eliminate the obstacles on the departure end of 21 left. That's the objective.
And is there going to be a cost-benefit analysis done? Because this sounds like it's going to be somewhat expensive. During the committee meeting, the number 10 to 15 million was mentioned.
Yeah, because we don't have a final distance yet, we don't have a final estimated cost. But as part of this, we would calculate the approximate construction cost of the shift.
And I know that the FAA has land acquisition funding for purchase of property at the end of the runway to prevent non-compatible building. But do you have any idea what the source of funding for this might possibly be?
This would all be still AIP, FAA, AIP eligible, everything that we're proposing, or we would propose.
Okay, and then last but not least, this is going to really affect our air carriers. Are they going to be included? And you're going to be reaching out to them to get their input because our FAA funding for that runway extension is centers on our commercial air service.
Right. Yeah, the airline would certainly be involved in it, as well as the community and other users of the airport. Absolutely. Yep.
So if we do shift the runway, we still will be flying over Deepwell Ranch.
Yes.
And will we be creating another need for more land acquisition since we'll be flying in a different pattern?
Well, you're going to be a lot higher over Deepwell Ranch. But as far as additional land acquisition beyond what you're completing with the South Ranch, there's nothing more proposed after this.
So the OEI will stay the same?
Yes.
Okay. All righty. Okay, well, thank you very much for clarifying this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, in that case, I would move to approve consent item 9A, amending the language or the wording to say an amount not to exceed $92,640.30. 9D.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Councilmember Rusing, thank you. Passes 5-0.
All right, we'll move on to the regular agenda, item 10A.
WSA 25-008, a water service application for 7.62 acre-feet submitted by Granite Basin Engineering on behalf of owner Bradshaw Senior 3 Prescott LP, location APN 110-04-193X, 4745 North 7th Street, Suite 110, comprising 1.01 acres.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Brian Reese. I'm the Water Resources Environmental Services Manager here for the City of Prescott. The water service application is for a proposed 42-unit low-income housing or a low-income housing tax credit project. Location is shown on the vicinity map in front of you off of Stetson Road near Bradshaw Drive. So this project had a water demand analysis that was prepared by Granite Basin Engineering. They determined a annual demand of around 7.06 acre-feet per year for the project. That included 0.56 acre-feet per year for landscaping, in addition, 0.56 acre-feet for landscaping, for a total of 7.62 acre-feet per year for this project. The project consisting of the 42 units, it will complete out, my understanding is a complete out. The senior housing development for this project, there's 2 existing buildings already on the ground. So the map in front of you kind of shows a basic layout for the project and where it sits. So this project was heard at the March 4th, 2025 subcommittee or council subcommittee for water issues, at which time that the water issues subcommittee asked about the demand analysis, and and why it was a little bit higher than was normally seen. And the reason is that typically in the demand analysis, we utilize the water resource management model value of 0.12 acre-feet per year for an apartment unit. The engineer of record decided to use a fixture count and the general engineering standards and 150 gallons per day value that's a generic value for water use per resident, and came up with a slightly higher 7.06 for the housing part of the project. So with that, the water issue subcommittee did recommend approval for this project, but at a reduced rate of 5.6 acre-feet per year, which would be the 42 units multiplied by the 0.12, and then adding on the 0.56 for the landscaping. So see if there's anything else to cover. In summary, a 42-unit housing project, 7.06 acre-feet, was established by the engineer. A recommendation by the Water Issues Subcommittee of 5.6 acre-feet per year. And with that, staff has no objection to approval of this project. It's within the water budget that is set by the water policy. So if there's any questions, be happy to try to answer them.
Councilmember Rusing?
Yes, this is very interesting. I think this is the first time this has happened when we didn't follow the 0.12 per unit. And if you look in your packet on page 97 at the data, the engineer calculated 150 gallons per unit. And these are elderly people in studio apartments. Mm-hmm. And I'm just saying, from me personally, I use like 50 gallons, average 50 gallons per day. So it is quite a big discrepancy. And the applicant was not there at the meeting, and I don't know if he's here today. So I just would like to, if he's certainly welcome if he wants to have any comments about the discrepancy and his rationale for using the larger number.
Hi, Council, Mayor and Council, thank you for this opportunity. I'm actually the architect of record. I designed all the various phases of that project, the Bradshaw campus, we call it. And Granite Basin, Ben Hughes did.
Can you pull out the microphone a little bit and be able to speak into that, because we have people online watching?
Oh, okay.
Speak, pull it up. Yeah.
Can I hold that? How's that? Okay. And actually, I'm not with the civil engineering company. Granite Basin did that. But we did have discussions when he was putting this together. And actually, your recommended usage is really right on track. He told me that there was certain information that wasn't available to him. He was going to calculate from water bills, and that some of that information wasn't available, and he felt better coming in using a higher calculation and presenting it to you all. But the 5.6 acre-feet per year that's an accurate calculation.
Yeah, if you can get it back in there, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're ready for a motion.
I move to approve WSA 25-008 for 5.6 acre-feet per year.
I think my calculations, for correction, I calculated 42 units times 0.12. I got 5.04 plus 5.56 for landscaping. Is that what it says here? So
Yes, that's correct.
5.6.
So 5.6. I'm sorry, I couldn't read my handwriting. I'll second that motion.
All right, do we have any public comment?
We do not.
No, all right, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
passes 401.
All right, we'll move on to, what's our next item here?
9B, or 10B rather.
10B.
GPA 22-001, presentation and discussion regarding the updated City of Prescott 2025 general plan and adoption of resolution number 2025-1922, adopting the 2025 general plan and setting the ballot language.
Thank you and good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Tammy DeWitt, Community Planner. Basically, we're going to kind of go through some of the updates to the plan that we made since our last meeting. If we call it the last meeting, we went through the document and all the chapters to see what you wanted to keep in and wanted to take out. And based on that meeting and what was discussed and the one-on-one discussions we had with each of you, we made a bunch of some changes to the plans for clarification or to move some things around. Then if you have any discussion or questions. And then per state statutes, we need 2/3 of a vote, so we'll need 5 votes for this to pass today. So there was some changes in the introduction. The Prescott roadmap that we had was moved to a different page. Replaced that area with what's required in the general plan. What's required, but what we added at 50, that was required at 50,000 in the volunteer elements. And we also added a note about where to find the Prescott land use map in the document. And the intent is when this is more going to be a digital document, and we'll have a link on that page in the final draft that will take you to the map. So per the discussion at your last meeting, you approved a new vision and mission statement. So we added that into the general plan. So we added the language, the end of the first paragraph, the challenge for the community for clarification. We removed finding a balance. That's more discussed in economic competitiveness and prosperity. So we took that portion out. Replaced it with Prescott's roadmap because that was a great lead-in to our approach. One thing I didn't notice yesterday was my typo. When we updated the MLK language at the very last end of it, the goal is consistent with the Prescott vision and mission statement. That was it says in there right now, it said Prescott and vision statement. So that's a correction. And then the other thing that I didn't have in the presentation was in your packet on page 14. There was a sentence that was kind of confusing about some information from the 2015 plan, and we updated it to say the 2020 U.S. Census reported Prescott's population to be 45,827. Prescott's growth rate from 2010 to 2020 was 1.4% per year. This is from the updated plan. I just didn't note it in my presentation I had in the packet. And then there was a couple other clarifications where it said region, we put county, and then there was another sentence that had information, but it said what it was for, and it was actually for Prescott Valley. Those are the only things that are noted in the presentation that was in your packet that were updates that I forgot to put in. I missed. So, but otherwise, all the other updates were noted in the presentation that were in your packet, and they're in the updated draft that was in your packet. So if there's anything you want to discuss or clarify, I'd be happy to talk about it. Or I do have the updated draft available and also the land use map. If we go through, I guess I'll bring that up. Part of it was the update, to the, so we added very low density back into it.
Hold on a second.
Sure.
Tammy. Councilwoman Furworth, did you want to make a question or comment before she goes through the detail?
Thank you, Mayor.
And I'll start off by saying you got a typo on the name of the people on the committee. It's Jim Huffman, not Jim Hoffman.
Okay.
So
we can correct
replace
that.
the O with a U.
Thank you.
Okay, and I had also a question regarding, I think, some feedback that I had given you in our one-on-one session for the paragraph that talks about the challenge for the community. It says, ensure the continued vitality and longevity of existing commercial and industrial areas, and this is on page 3 of the general plan. and create additional sites suitable for business, commercial, and industrial development. Also, to do so without sacrificing the historic and cultural resources and open space valued by the community, without undue negative effects on existing neighborhoods, and without degrading. My concern is you put environmental resources as a period, and then there's an example, which I think should be in parentheses. For example, water contributes to our quality of life. But I also think it's really important that we do this without degrading our overall infrastructure and services and keeping them at the acceptable level, which is the trailer after what I think should be parentheses. So it's just a weird flowing sentence right now. Because we've separated degrading environmental resources with also keeping our infrastructure and services at acceptable. All goes up to the sentence above, and that example kind of breaks up the sentence. So if you could take a look at that, it wasn't the feedback I had given, and I just thought it was kind of odd as I was reading it again and again, trying to make sense of the whole paragraph. I get the points, I just don't think it flows, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Tammy, also, I had a comment when I was meeting with you and Chelsea in our meetings about page 223, strategy 3.5.
So what page of the document? I don't have the packet.
116.
Thank you. And what strategy was it?
3.5.
Okay.
I thought we had discussed this. I'm going to read it just for the public's benefit. This would be under the prepare a conceptual housing plan for the city and partners that include a full needs assessment. This is basically workforce housing. So strategy 3.5 is provide a water allocation priority for developments that create and will maintain 50% or more of the units at a workforce housing affordable level or below, make allocation an administrative process at up to 2 acre-feet, or otherwise double the allowance for market rate development for workforce housing projects. This is with water. So I thought we had talked about possibly putting on a case-by-case basis at the end of that sentence because of some of the things that have been discussed in the Water Issues Committee. And now, of course, we have the worm that helps us in deciding that. I thought we had decided we were not going to just give a blanket 50% increase in water allocation.
And that can be discussed as we prepare a conceptual housing plan for the city. So the goal that this is under is prepare a conceptual housing plan for the city and partners that includes a full needs assessment and addresses at minimum housing availability and variety, which is kind of what's going on now.
Right.
So this was just a possible strategy, but that doesn't mean that this is exactly how it's going to go in once we get to that point. But we could add on there on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, I think that if we do that, that gives us a little bit of leeway to determine what the full intent of the project will be.
Sure.
And I thought there was a question too, and in fact, Mr. Sapio brought this up, I believe, about making this an administrative process. Was that okay with the committee that we make this an administrative process so they can bypass the WIS? Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Rusing.
I just have a question, a little clarification. Since there's only 5 council members here today voting, you said we need a
I need all 5 of you to vote for it.
I need all 5, so it's not just the 5 that are here, it's just the regular, like there were 7 people here. I was a little confused on that.
Yeah, the way state statutes, you need 2/3 of the whole body.
Okay.
So that's 5 votes are required.
All righty, thank you.
Well, I'm going to state these things again. I mean, I'm looking at page 107. What is a general plan? In simple terms, the City of Prescott's general plan is a guide for land use decisions in Prescott. So that's what this should be about. adding all these elements related to when the population exceeds 50,000 is unnecessary and confusing. It makes this general plan document larger than it needs to be, and for the people who actually read this and want to vote about it, they're going to confuse these elements with what is required. So I would delete all references to any required elements over the population of 50,000. It's unnecessary. Even the voluntary elements, I think there are certain ones here that should not be included because the city doesn't have an impact on them, including youth programs and childcare. How does that relate to land use? Art, cultural events, and museums. How does that relate to land use? Healthcare. We don't have the ability to impact healthcare. So including in the general plan, I think is confusing again, and it's relating to something that the general plan should not be referencing. And I'll say again, and I've said it several times, the reference to harassment and discrimination is not something that should be included in this general plan document. Even though the language has improved, I'm still objecting to it. And because of those things that I've just referenced, I will not vote for this. So you will not get the 5 votes that you need.
And we can defer it to another meeting.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Gambogi.
I move that we defer this vote to a subsequent meeting where we have more council members in attendance.
I second that.
Well, should we take any more public comment here? I mean, we can listen to anything that people want to talk about, even though we're not going to be able to make a decision.
That's up to you, Mayor. We do have 3 comment cards for this item if you'd like to take them.
Yeah, I think we can listen to 3 comments.
Patrick Pearson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm Patrick Pearson. The problems I have with this general plan are much of the wording that just doesn't seem to belong. I think that's just been addressed.
Can you speak into that microphone a little closer?
Just some examples that I have of the wording that I have issues with is organizing locations, densities of population clusters to employ smart growth. This appears to be an overture to 15-minute cities to me. An attempt was floated within the past couple of years to try and do busing and build in the parking lots at the rodeo to bus in the visitors, and it just seems like that didn't pass, and I don't think that we should be headed towards 15-minute city and busing. The other thing, water conservation, demand management, water smart practices. These are all items, excuse me, to control citizen usage. Advanced metering infrastructure is, and also enable two-way communications between meter endpoints and utilities. This is basically getting towards the point of being able to control the power to your homes. Once again, controlling citizen usage. Another line was public-private partnerships. There's got to be another way to state that because this sounds too much like things that have been in the news lately with non-government organizations. Climate disruption, more resilient and sustainable. There's quite a bit of climate change speak in this that probably doesn't belong. Discouraging local pollution, the circulation element, reducing automobile dependence through alternative transportation. This is alternative transportation is also talk about eliminating private vehicles and phasing them out. More climate change that was mentioned on page 38 and 39, more excuses to shut off the water when there is a fire and to blame climate change. We also have wording regarding net zero building framework being developed for city-owned buildings. Net zero means no carbon. There's carbon in everything in life. Increasing temperatures, we have that listed. Mental health issues related to climate-related disasters, ecosystems to be impacted. Warming is already driving an increase in the area burned by wildfires. That's been stated in there too. Larger storm events, where's all the data used to make all these claims? We would like to know the data.
Sir, your time's up. If you can conclude your remarks.
Okay. Wording is too susceptible to be exploited in the future. Thank you for hearing me.
Kenneth Gollner.
Hi, my name is Kenneth Gollner. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I have many concerns with this document, and I appreciate the comments of Mayor Phil Good. I agree with those sentiments. I want to point out that the terminology in this is not unique to not only Prescott, but it's not even unique to the United States. And what that tells me in very simple terms, because I don't have more than a few minutes to go into this, is that this is a political agenda that comes from far-flung corners of the world that have nothing to do with the United States. And this is not mere conjecture. I have literally a box full of documents printed that I would be happy to share with you, showing where this terminology comes from. But the key point I want to make is that many of these terms, some of which were mentioned by the prior commenter, they mean something different to the people who hold these ideas and who want us to adopt them as being this wonderful, egalitarian, almost utopic sounding phrasing like sustainability and smart growth and resiliency. These didn't just come from some local conversation. The point is, these terms are not done in the context of, if you took a dictionary and looked up those words, that's not what the words mean in this document. These words are a political Trojan horse. And again, what I'm saying is not hyperbole, it's not conjecture, and it's not a mistake. I can show you the paper trail that shows what these words really mean. For example, sustainable, although it has many subparts, essentially boils down to an excuse for rationing resources under the guise of one crisis or another. One thing that affects me personally that I'd like to share with you is about the advanced metering infrastructure. AMI meters, also known as smart meters, already exist not only in Prescott, but in many areas around the world. They were rolled out at various times, but I believe here in Prescott it was somewhere around 2014. At that time, if you were lucky enough to know or notice that these meters were coming, and were able to do your due diligence to research what they were about and what they were changing, you could opt out. But now you can no longer opt out. Or even if you have opted out, like I did, if I were to move to a new address in Prescott, which I hope to do because I'm trying to become a homeowner for the first time by possibly next year, But when I do that, because APS, which is the current, they use smart meters or AMI meters now, and the general plan talks about adding this to the water meters through
Time's
that.
expired. If you conclude your comments, please.
So my point is, it's about choice. I can no longer opt out of these meters. And just to make a few bullets about AMI meters, they're proprietary. They're proven to not be rated to withstand surges, which have led to fires. So if we want to talk about resiliency, what about house fires? They can
Time's up,
spy
sir.
on your usage.
Please conclude.
Yes, I'm finishing up. They can spy on your usage, which is a violation of your Fourth Amendment rights. And they're not accurate despite claims to the contrary by utilities saying, well, if your bill goes up, it's just because these are more accurate than before. But again, there's no way to confirm that. In any case, I have many other concerns about this, but I am out of time. Thank you for listening, and thank you.
Robert Shagog.
Robert Shagog, I live at 3040 Pine Drive. I wanted to address the non-discrimination language and probably make a clarification or point of interest that when you talk about a land use document, that means all of the people are using the land, and that you have to be a forward-thinking community. You have to prepare for the fact that there may be more children, that there may be a need for more hospitals, and maybe need for more emergency responders. And in that same light, you need to be prepared to greet and meet all of your citizens in a fair and equitable way. We, Jim and I, have been working on this for 17 months. And in that 17 months, we have talked to a lot of the leaders of the community. We've talked to people in the community. We have changed this non-discrimination language at least four different times. We conducted a survey, and we didn't get as many people as we wanted in the survey, but we did do a survey. This indicates to me that there is a portion of this community that wants to see this non-discrimination language in this document. And I would hope that you, as leaders of this community, would acknowledge those people. Thank you very much.
That's all, Mayor.
You know, my biggest concern is to make sure this general plan is approved by the voters. The more controversial and unnecessary components that we put into this, the more likely the voters are going to reject it. And then we'll be back in another 2-year cycle to try to correct it. So there is an opportunity for us to pull out some of these controversial references. And even though we can't do that today, I hope we can do it at the next meeting, because otherwise, like I said, I can't support it. So we have a motion and a second. I guess we can vote for tabling this to a date-specific meeting.
So we could table it to the May 27th meeting. That'll be after we come back from the council chambers being closed.
Very well. We have a motion and a second to table this to the May 7th? 27th meeting.
Mayor, I make a motion, we table this to May 27th.
Mayor Pro Tem, we already had a motion and a second, so I just need to
We got a
confirm
motion
with
and
those
2 seconds.
individuals
Do we have
that
any more seconds?
you're comfortable, Councilman Gambogi, since it was your motion, with the 27th of May.
I accept that, and Lois was the second.
Okay, I think we have enough seconds here. Let's go ahead and vote.
Mayor, can I jump in real quick before everybody seconds? Just to note that the postponing this item also pushes the election, so we would be talking about moving to the November election, for clarity.
Understood. I think we all agree here. Do we? You want to put a vote on the screen? Okay.
The motion was to table the discussion and vote on this item to the May 27th council meeting. That will also push this item to the November general election ballot rather than the August primary ballot. Passes 5-0. All right.
Our next item is
10C.
10C.
Discussion,
Clerk?
consideration, and possible action regarding adoption of resolution number 2025-1914, approving ballot language for the Open Space Charter Amendment Initiative, for which an election was called by council on February 25th, 2025, and ordinance number 2025-1883. We'll have some brief comments from staff regarding the resolution, and then council discussion, and then one of our petitioners, Mr. Moyer, will address the council. Then we can take public comment, and then we will conclude with our other petitioner, Ms. McMinn, and then council can take a vote.
Yeah, so Joseph Young, City Attorney. I expected this to be fairly brief. The charter language was approved by council previously, along with an ordinance calling for the election. So at that point, we hadn't prepared the ballot language because we didn't know exactly what would be passed. So there's been a few little changes, and I want to go over each of those, and then an update to the ballot language, and you have that in your packet. So the first, in terms of what was changed with the charter language, there was only 3 things, all fairly small. The first was the addition of Watson Woods Riparian Preserve, and that was based on the council vote. It hadn't made it into the document at that point. So portions of, excuse me, a couple of parcels were added to the document to be protected, and it is that land that's described in City Contract 95-076. So that is now included. And I'm dealing with allergies, so please excuse me. There's 2 other small changes. One was in the Gill Hill Little Thumb Butte. There's 6 parcels there. I had a typo on one of them where it was 110-04-076J, and the actual parcel was 111-04. So I made that small change. And then a typo again in the use section where I had roads and paths for public safety access and response repeated. So removed the second roads and path for public safety access. So those were the 3 changes to the document, the 2 typos, and then the addition of the Watson Woods Riparian Preserve. If this is approved today, we will make 2 changes to the ballot language, which is the dates of this resolution approval and the addition of the proposition number, which we have now. I know that some people were asking. It would be, assuming it's approved, Proposition 484. So up here you have the map that will accompany the publicity pamphlet. As you have it, it's harder to see here, but you have it in your backup. We mentioned that about 3,000 new acres would be protected. Having done the math, it's 2,746, along with previously protected properties of 1,259. So there will be 4,005 acres protected through our charter as open space. So the motion that we would ask is just an approval of readoption of the resolution approving the ballot language. That's resolution 2025-1922. And if you have any questions, I can answer those.
Sorry, Joe, it's 1914. 22 is for the general plan.
Oh, thank you. I'm on the wrong one. 1914.
Okay. Councilmember Rusing.
Thank you. I'd just like to make the comment that if this open space amendment isn't approved today, it remains that a simple majority vote of 4 council members can sell open space. For example, Goldwater Lake could be sold with 4 votes. By approving this open space amendment and putting it on the ballot, and if the voters approve it, It will require any sale of our open space to be put on the ballot and approved by the voters and the taxpayers, because this was taxpayer-funded property. So I just wanted to make that perfectly clear. Thank you.
Councilmember Gambogi.
What percent of our total open space property is protected by this initiative?
I can't answer that. We kind of went through how we got to this. A lot of the properties could be considered open space or not open space, depending, or it's zoned open space, but it's not planned for open space. Having said that, the intent was to get all of the iconic parcels protected, and that is primarily around Watson Lake and in the Dells. We wanted to get Goldwater and make sure that couldn't be sold in the future. I don't have a percentage of how much, but it's most everything. But there are parcels that are not included at this point.
I want to listen to a public comment.
All right, Mr. Moyer.
Mayor and Council, thank you for approving that resolution on, I believe it was March 4th. I hope you can do that again despite the lack of council people here to vote, which means that we have to have 4 out of 5 rather than 4 out of 7. As I understand it, Joe, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
So this was supposed to be just a perfunctory vote since the council had already approved the ballot language on the 4th. And I know that there were 2 negative votes last time. I hope since this is just an approval of some slight changes in the ballot language that you can all agree to go for it again. And without any change, further change today, that would open up this Pandora's box again. I know there's some interest in including some more parcels, but that would seriously delay this effort. And almost certainly we would not make the August 5th ballot, or it could go worse than that. So I'm hoping you will approve today. And we can definitely easily, much more easily, make an amendment in the future to include other parcels, because we will have the framework for this ballot language in the charter then, and all we would have to do basically is have an amendment that would add 1 to the list or 2 to the list. And I think it would be extremely simple to do that, and the petitioners would certainly support that motion. I mean that effort. So thank you.
Ralph Hess.
Good afternoon. I'm Ralph Hess from Prescott. I'm going to change my comments from those that I planned based on what decision this council made on the previous agenda item. I've often talked with some of you about the system under which we make political decisions. And I've asked questions of both the Republican Party members, candidates for office, and Democratic members, candidates for office. And the question I asked them, I said, are you ever concerned about the fact that the majority party, the party that's in power, for instance, down at the state legislature, and it's been the Republican Party for a while, really renders the minority party impotent because they don't get things through committee, never get a vote on issues. The majority party, both at our state level and our federal level, control exactly whatever gets done. And I see that as a flaw in this system. Now, after the March 11th meeting, if the two missing council members were here today, we would have anticipated that the general plan would have passed. It would have gone on the primary ballot. It's not going to go on the primary ballot. If that's the only municipal issue on the general election ballot, it's going to cost, what, $80,000 to $100,000 for the city just for that issue. Now, on March 11th, two of the council members voted against this charter amendment. We anticipate, based on what happened on March 11th, if the two council members who were absent were here, this charter amendment would be on the primary ballot. Possibly, two of you will vote against it when you need four. So I ask you, many times I make reference to the tyranny of the majority, because the majority renders the minority impotent in making any type of political decision. Even worse than that is the tyranny of the minority. And so I hope I don't see that today. Thank you.
Jim Gehring.
Mayor and Council, good afternoon. I agree with the recommended action and the additional changes set forth by the city attorney. Thank you.
Walt Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing us to speak today. It's good to be back. It's really rewarding to have seen the effort that has gone through in this city to establish this system of open space protection. It really is remarkable. 20 years ago, I was on the Open Space Acquisition Advisory Committee, and the council was not so favorable to open space. So to see the large interconnected area in the Granite Dells, which makes it a regional park and preserve with ecological integrity, is really something. And I really hope that you will put this final step of permanent protection in here. I think is really important. I think another thing that needs to be done is to establish an open space commission. A commission is under the jurisdiction of the council. So the council can determine who's on the commission and so forth, and it doesn't rely on the whim of a particular mayor in the future. We did have that Open Space Acquisition Advisory Committee. A committee is subject to the whim of a mayor, and so I do hope that as a follow-up on this, that you establish an open space commission. Thank you very much.
Joanne Ohlers.
Hello, I'm Joanne Ohlers, 2911 East Granite Gardens Drive, and today I'm speaking on behalf of Save the Dells. It's been very interesting to watch the process of moving the charter amendment ballot measure ahead. And I can say with confidence it's well worth the time coming to these meetings to see the process, to show up and become familiar with the steps and the preliminary outcomes along the way. It can help any of us to know our city more completely. I highly recommend showing up for meetings or tuning in. Members of the public see one another here engaged in city concerns and as participants in one way or another. What most of us don't see are the other ways the public engages. I heard Mayor Pro Tem Cantalme mention it once or twice. The phone calls, the letters, the meeting the people on the street, the casual conversations that demonstrate the level of interest and affection most of us have for our natural open space. It is indeed a large part of Prescott's personality, and we guard it not just for our own pleasurable experiences, but because we know our natural lands and recreational spaces add, not subtract, from the prosperity of our city. This is the right time to close the circle on the long-time intent of permanent protection. And Save the Dells will do our part to support later additions to the charter as appropriate. Thank you.
Truly Bracken.
My name is Truly Bracken, and I live on Idlewild Hill. I want to first speak to what Joanne Ohlers just mentioned, and that's the opportunity to protect the majority of the natural open space that remains and needs protection. I hope you can find your way through this process today, and if not, at a subsequent meeting. I also want to acknowledge the hard work and the goodwill developed by the Prescott Alternative Transportation Group and the people who supported West Granite Creek Park. And I know that it's not ready at this point for inclusion in the ballot language, but I hope that it will be included in a timely fashion and can go on perhaps the November ballot. There's a great deal of effort that's going to go into the restoration of that park. And I fully support that effort and hope that it will also be addressed. And I think that many of the citizens in the city would hope for the very same outcome. I think it is a surprise to some of us that it will take 4 out of 5 today, but that is what it is. And we do have the opportunity of the November election if we don't manage to get this on the August 5th ballot. I think the citizens of the city really support this effort, and I think the goodwill that's been shown in the process is very important. Thank you.
Jim Knapp.
Jim Knapp, 200 Parker Drive, Prescott, Arizona. I get the privilege of wearing several hats day to day, and the hat I'd like to wear today as I speak is that of a downtown businessman. I'm also a member of the Chamber of Commerce and the Downtown Prescott Association. I'd like to see this charter amendment go forward to the voters, and I just want to note a couple other things in the process. A couple of years ago, we spent over $1 million to improve the Granite Creek corridor. It's beautiful down there with the mural. It's just starting to leaf out. It's such a great asset added to our downtown area. Coming up in a couple weeks will be Easter Sunday, and that's when Granite Creek Park shines. It will be crowded with hundreds of families and friends celebrating Easter. I hope you go down there sometime just to see what an asset that park is. West Granite Creek Park is the vital link that connects the two, and I would like to see it shine as well as these other assets, and I would like to see language added that includes it in the charter amendment. Thank you.
Dottie Morris.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I live at 1391 Escalante Drive in Prescott, and I'm president of the Granite Dells Preservation Foundation. Rather going point by point over this, I want to thank all of you for working so hard to come up with this proposal. It is extremely important to get this on the ballot. We all know that. Whether you agree with what it says or not, I hope you agree with the charter. The charter gives you the option to allow the voters to make the decision. You make your decision one way or the other on open space. That's your right as a voter. But please give the voters of this community the right to make this decision by putting it off again. Thank you very much.
David Farrow. Sue Knapp.
Hello, my name is Sue Knapp. I'm a member of the West Granite Creek Park Restoration Coalition. Thank you again for enabling the upcoming restoration of West Granite Creek Park to its open space car-free splendor. You guys were awesome. Today you have one last chance to ensure that our restoration efforts are permanently protected. Do you have the 2 handouts that I...
It was part of the email that was sent with the agenda publication.
Oh no, it's the ones I just gave you.
It's what you emailed us last week.
Yeah, but there's one different. Yeah, anyway. Okay. Yeah, if you could, that would be great. The 2 missing parcels outlined in red amount to nearly half of West Granite Creek Park, including the area to be restored and Granite Creek. Both parcels are zoned open space. The omission of this half of West Granite Creek Park would invite developers. Imagine the fate of Hacienda Lake happening right next to downtown. A chain link fence encircling a private park and splash pad, locked gates at both park entries, and the Greenways Trail severed. But there is an easy fix today. A simple motion. I'm not talking about delaying this. A simple motion that can be given today to correct the language for West Granite Creek Park. Add the 2 missing parcels. Those numbers are in your handout there. And after that, add this phrase, less the minor building encroachment. Easy. Today is your chance to protect this open space property. Leaving just these 2 parcels for a separate charter amendment on the November ballot is not an option. I don't know how you guys would help us or whatever, but our coalition does not have the resources to develop our own charter amendment, let alone explain to voters why these 2 parcels were left out of the August ballot. Such an effort would take years. We would be working with a different city council. Please do not relinquish your authority to future decision makers. You can fix this today. With your protection of our entire open space park today, we can move ahead with its restoration with confidence, knowing that our investments of volunteer time and donor funding are safe for from future assaults. Thanks so much.
J.D. Greenberg.
I really was going to do you guys a favor and not speak today. But this is just too important. I really have been impressed with the way that this council has supported the protection of our open space under a city charter. This charter and protection will be a living document. It will allow flexibility should, in the future, Prescott experience an emergency situation. It allows for additions to be protected, and it allows, through the vote of the Prescott residents, for there to be a sale if required. It has been proposed that it reflects a distrust in the city councils, and that's not true. There have been issues over the years that I know a lot of us have not been happy with. That cannot be disregarded. But all of you sitting there today have been voted into your office by people who are trusting you to do the right thing. And the right thing at this point is to approve the placement of this city charter amendment on the primary election ballot in August. Please, please, for over 20 years, many of us have been lobbying and fighting for this. We've encountered many setbacks, and yet we're still here fighting for it. I don't think I've got 20 more years. So please, please do it now. Thank you.
Bonnie McMahon.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Bonnie McMinn, Prescott, Arizona. My co-petitioner is handing out a map that we had intended to use earlier. We chose not to, but based upon the comments regarding West Granite Creek Park, we feel compelled to do so. And I would ask that our City Attorney Joe Young feel free to jump in as well. It is inaccurate that the two parcels that are missing, the city has actually found 8 parcels, whereas West Granite Creek had 7. So 8 out of 10 now will be protected based upon what has been provided in the maps to you in your packet. If you look at the map, you will see that the 2 parcels are not anywhere near 50% of the park. We want to protect the park. We have had conversations to work in the future, but it is based upon city attorney's advice that it is not a simple amendment to this document, and we would encourage you to move forward with what we have today. Now I'll continue with my remarks. 4th time is a charm, Mr. Mayor, I'm hoping. So, quite simple, protect public lands, designated as national open space in perpetuity, taxpayer dollars purchase it. We've heard all this. Taxpayers assume the lands were protected. They're not. City of Prescott determined decades ago to protect Watson Lake, Willow Lake, and Acre Park. This is simply a continuation of that effort, 25 years in the making. One must ask, why are developers and builders, others in the growth business, opposed to this? This is something that I think is on certain people's minds. There are literally 18,000 homes in the pipeline. We saw the presentation earlier today. I looked at it. By 2040, 3,200 homes will be needed based on the chart that the gentleman presented earlier today. But 18,000 homes approved. We know it. This is one heck of a pipeline. So thinking of the developers using it for buying and leasing and building more stuff, we've got lots and lots of developments that are already out there. So it doesn't tie the hands of future councils. The logic is solid. We have an off-ramp. If something comes up, we can take it to the voters. It's very easy to do. As I've said before, probably speech number 3, staff and council ask and the citizens answer. We answer with our votes. We voted 3 times in the past 25 years to raise our own sales tax because we are reliable and we deliver when it's necessary. So every one of you supported Prop 478, and the citizens did as well. So to any hesitant elected official or hesitant staff, this is about accountability to the public. And this isn't on you, Mr. Gambogi. This is on us. This is on us as the citizens. Let the voters decide. Our voters have the council's back. Isn't it time for council and staff to reciprocate with that trust? Let the voters decide. We have a new council sworn in November, and it's now or never. Today we have 5 elected officials sitting on the dais. We need 4 affirmative votes to take this on the August 5th ballot. 2 members missing today have already cast a vote in favor of this amendment. Will council members respect their colleagues and previous votes of support? Will council members respect the voters and let us decide? Please support Prop 484. Thank you.
That's all, Mayor.
Okay, I'll take council comments now. Councilman Gambogi.
I'm not clear what we're voting on. We've already, isn't it true that we've already voted to put this on the city charter?
Yeah, if I may.
Yes, City Attorney.
So there was already an affirmative vote to approve the ordinance calling for the election. So there is an election set in August. The resolution, so the ordinance establishes the call of election. The resolution then approves the ballot language, and it's just finalizing ballot language that was previously approved, but it wasn't in final form. So just and to be clear about the 4 versus 5 votes, in that under our charter, resolutions and ordinances have to be approved by a majority of the body, which is then 4, regardless of how many people are there. So if for some reason, for example, this doesn't pass today, we already have an ordinance we have to deal with, we'd be back here on April 8th for a revote on this resolution. And that would be the last opportunity to go on that August ballot. So
now further clarification.
Yeah, so essentially, we're just correcting these parcel numbers.
Right, it's just approving the ballot language with 3 small changes to the approved language.
Right.
And it excludes any discussion of Granite Creek Park.
I believe that's correct. Councilmember Rusing.
I'd like to make a motion. I move to adopt amended resolution number 2025-1914.
Second.
I'm going to vote to abstain because I had some initial objections to the restrictions that this provides to the council. But as you know from the city charter, an abstention is considered an affirmative vote.
That's correct.
So I'm going to vote to abstain here, but we have a motion and a second. Please, everyone that's remaining, go ahead and vote.
Passes 302. Mayor, would you like me to move us on to the next item? All right. Item 10D, second public hearing for the alternative expenditure limit home rule ballot proposition, and at a special meeting, adoption of resolution number 2025-1915, proposing an extension of the alternative expenditure limitation and approving ballot language. So I just want to real quickly, Mark, walk council through the way that this is going to work. Very similar to the manner in which we do the budget adoption, we will conduct the second public hearing right now. Mark is going to go through all of the required information. Council can have discussion, and then we will close the public hearing. At that point, Mayor will recess this regular voting meeting, and we will reconvene a special meeting. I'll do a roll call, and then you will vote on the adoption of the resolution, which will set the ballot language and approve moving forward with the home rule option on the primary election ballot. Then we will adjourn the special meeting and reconvene the regular meeting.
Everybody got that? Okay, good.
Thank you, Sarah. Mayor and Council, Mark Woodfill, Budget and Finance Director. For those of you who don't know me, a little offensive when half the room leaves when you get up, but we'll soldier on.
Yeah, don't take it personally.
Yeah, I don't take anything personal anymore. This item is related to the alternative expenditure limitation, which was adopted by a vote of the people back in 1980. It kind of spun out of the Prop 13 issues that were happening in California. And what it did is it set our expenditure limit to what our 1980 budget was. It increments that amount by population growth as well as CPI adjustments over time. It does not take into account anything about service level changes, increases in the size of our airport or things like that, or the increased cost of finding water, which is not related to the CPI really as you start building these projects. So it causes a significant problem for cities or town to the extent that of the 91 cities in the state of Arizona, all but 6 of them have adopted home rule on every 4-year basis or a permanent basis adjustment. So this is done a lot of places because there's no way to provide the services that people want. Additionally, it doesn't look at what revenues are available. If you have an increased tax for a public safety service or something like that, or just increased sales tax because of population that passes through your town for retail and you need to provide services for them, it doesn't consider any of those things. So it does cause quite a problem. The home rule option allows this to be set instead of by a formula developed 45 years ago. It allows it to be set every year as we do our budget process. Now, as part of the packet, we put together a projection, and this is up on the screen. It's in the packet and will be in the publicity packet. These are the years that we're looking at today. Home rule is a 4-year election. This is the city's 10th year of bringing it forward. This is for fiscal year 27, 28, 29, and 30. So with that, we have adjusted the publicity pamphlet based on the discussion at the last public hearing, which was to move out some expenditures in the library and some other expenditures that were discussed. And those are all reflected on these 2 schedules, which are part of the detailed analysis that is in the publicity pamphlet. These are all drafts. As if council decides to put this on the election, the publicity pamphlet will be forwarded to the Auditor General, who will double check my math and make sure that I can do math. Just a real quick, this is a calculation of the expenditure limit. You can see there the state expenditure limit in 27 would be about $84 million. We take that, we add exclusions, because there's exclusions to this very convoluted law, which was brought forward. Debt issues do not count as expenditures, so you can issue debt and spend whatever you want of that. Grants don't, which makes more sense because that's money the federal government gives you to do something, or the state government or other people. So we've gone through and done a projection of what the exemptions would be based on all the items in our capital plan and other things, and that's the next column there in green. So the total that we would be able to expend, in, as an example, in 27 is 175 million approximately. Looking at the actual expenses needed, it's significantly more, causing a deficit or a cutting of services that the council would have to do. Council would have to decide what we don't want to do anymore. The average of all those 4 years is about 90 million a year that we would not be able to provide to the citizens and services, even though we have revenues. With that, again, this is the public hearing. Sarah eloquently explained the process that we will go through with the public hearing and stuff. So I would be glad to answer questions from you or the public as we move forward.
Any questions or comments from the council? Do we have any public comment?
We do not, Mayor.
Then I would recommend that we move to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Please vote.
I will.
Passes 5-0.
And as we look at I'm sorry, go.
Why don't we let them do
Yeah.
the adjournment, and then we'll get into
Okay.
the discussion about the resolution, since that has
Sounds
to be at the
good.
special meeting. Okay.
Regular meeting is adjourned.
Recessed, not adjourned.
Okay, it's recessed. It says right there, recess. And we'll start a special meeting. And we'll start with roll call.
Mayor Good,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Cantelmi,
Here.
Councilwoman Fruworth,
Present.
Councilman Gambogi,
I am here.
Councilmember Rusing,
Here.
and the record will reflect that Councilman Montoya and Councilman Moore are excused from the meeting.
Okay, do you, City Clerk, do you want to read the resolution?
Adoption of Resolution Number 2025-1915.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution obviously to put on the ballot. Just wanted to clarify, like the general plan, this requires a 2/3 vote. So of 5, we need at least 5 votes to put it on the ballot, or we just start cutting budgets, I guess.
Okay, then I'll move to adopt resolution number 2025-1915.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Passes 5-0.
Very good. Then this special meeting is adjourned. And I'm reconvening the regular voting meeting. Now that the regular voting meeting has been reconvened, this meeting is adjourned. We'll make